It's sensitive.
I just say it, it turns on. All right, so call the 8:27 Land Use and Planning meeting to session, I suppose. Make that sound real professional. So minutes, we got minutes for the last two go-arounds.
Yes. Did you guys get them?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
They both look good to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and that other one I had done, it just was still sitting in my Google Drive.
Right?
So there it is, all completed.
All right, well, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. And we vote.
Motion passes. Awesome. And then, wow, they really did change my,
Uh-huh. I printed, I was like, whoa, okay, here we go.
yeah, that's fine.
I asked Jody if she.
I feel like I'm missing something on here, like a lot.
Well, I feel like it's a lot for one.
Yeah, but also, anyhow,
Did you get the email from Jody? She just sent it. Or I did send Chelsea an email on setting camping rates in the resolution.
don't see this.
Okay, all right.
Is that 9:60?
Oh, I just got it.
Or
Okay.
9:11?
You bring up at land use and planning, yeah, we'll get to that after we actually get through our, how we have it set up. So, anywho, sorry about that. All right, so we also have a reappointment of seats on this agenda for secretary because Cinta's
Yeah.
going to school. So, I will.
I'm going to.
Yours, and she, okay.
That's why I was like, wait, what? Who's?
So I will make a motion to have Cinta, or Sandy be our secretary moving forward.
And I guess I'll second that.
I-
I'm sure
yeah.
Santa would if she
I-
wasn't fighting.
I second.
Excellent. So starting next meeting, 9:10, Sandy will be our secretary. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I got it.
pull this back up. All right, so, okay, that's the one I remember seeing. I don't know what I had just pulled up then. Interesting. Anywho, so, actually.
You put all these in
Second.
here?
A lot of it we had on there already. But, yeah, no, there was a few things that were added. I was under the impression that some of these would be getting announced by somebody else.
Okay.
But,
Well,
okay.
I'm pretty sure number 3 is why,
yeah, so I think we have a couple folks in the room that have some things to announce. Is that accurate? No? Yes? Housing study,
housing project?
housing project,
Or you
affordable
can
housing?
get for the,
Yeah, I was just gonna see what the mayor's next.
Oh, what his stuff is. All right, so we're gonna bypass Brewery Hill feasibility, introduction to RFP, agricultural lease and commercial lease until we see of Mr. Westwood. Until then, we can jump into,
2 through 4, waiting on mayor.
yep. So one thing I realized as I was putting together, I did an ordinance for 960.
Okay?
That was just, I emailed it to Dave and Jody to review, because I will say it's the first time I've made amendments to an ordinance.
Good job.
So,
Did you only make the changes, because I had made a couple?
I saw yours, did you?
I haven't seen the next one.
so the one,
I did 960A, and the A was red, and the only difference we made was in section 8.
yeah, it was like nothing. There was only like
It was
2 tiny changes.
By resolution as requested, that was all.
And I don't even think we put as in by resolution, it's just the applicant must, oh God, I missed a word, but the applicant must provide the following information as requested. That's all we needed. We didn't even need resolution.
Okay, so, mayor made,
What, it was, I think the mayor had made that suggestion.
okay, wait, what did you, I got,
To receive a permit, the applicant must submit an application to the city authority on a form approved by the city.
Mhm. Oh, by resolution,
resolution.
that's what you're talking about.
okay, so that's in red.
Okay,
And then the applicant must provide the following information
As
as
requested.
requested.
okay.
So those are the only changes that I made.
Yep, there's really not much to change on it. I will pull that up right now and make those changes real quick. Okay. 5, by resolution
And
As requested.
and as requested. Perfect. The one thing I did not do was a resolution for, temporary use permit fees, but I did do the events. So probably the reverse of how you would like that, but,
Yeah, it doesn't, that's fine.
okay.
I was thinking about
Hello.
writing that resolution as well, but I wanted to get all the whereases.
So essentially what I did for, I was having a hard time finding the resolution for temporary use.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on our website, couldn't find it anywhere. I have the number,
Right, and then I have the printout.
and I have the events. I had that resolution.
You have a printout?
No, not a resolution of the actual review, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, we have all that,
Yeah.
but I can't find the fee one, so that's where we're sitting there. But we
What?
do,
Wasn't the discussion that we don't have a resolution?
For
the,
temporary,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all based out of from zoning.
oh, right, so we
Okay.
need to create a resolution. That's why I couldn't find it.
We
Got it.
needed to create resolutions for, adopting the
Mhm.
large and small events and the fee schedule.
So we had the ones for the events and the fee schedule. We had two separate ones. We had
For
one.
two separate fees, yeah.
Yep, so we had one for large events and we had one for small events, and it didn't include the applications. So today I put together a resolution for all of that combined, to where it's fee schedule as well as the applications as presented with Exhibit A and Exhibit B.
In one resolution?
Mhm.
But then when you, I guess
Okay.
it doesn't really matter if it's in one resolution.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're gonna change the fee schedule, you're gonna have to change the application.
Okay.
Anyway,
Mhm.
so it isn't two separate applications.
Okay, 'cause
it's
I
just
have-
one.
So I have down resolution to adopt two separate,
Yeah, originally we had it as two. Jody recommended to me I do it in one.
okay, we can do it in one.
Yep. So I'll send that to you guys right now.
It's hard to get those whereas.
Actually, I wonder if I
Yeah.
can send it to Lonnie and she can just print these real quick. Did you by any chance have a chance to look at those today? Because I did it very last minute. Resolution 3660.
I did not, but.
That's okay.
They're,
It's
they're not up
totally
for
fine.
action tonight anyway.
Yeah, it's
No.
just for discussion.
Is it, what number was it, three?
3660,
Okay,
3660.
for permits,
That's for large and small events.
Yep, and the application.
I'm looking at 3660.
And I'm sure there will be changes that we'll want to make.
And if you want, I don't know if you have a need, I can,
print it.
Print it?
put it up on the big screen.
I don't think we have too much of a need, but if you want to, then we can look it over real quick.
It was just something I'm offering. I know we have lots of other things to talk about.
Yeah.
Yep,
so.
exactly, so,
Okay. So I just have it, you put it together,
mhm.
okay.
And I will get it printed so you guys can take a look at it. It'll be up for discussion today. But basically just saying that everything that Brian brought forth to us, we liked.
Yeah.
So we're updating the fee schedule, and then we're also going to adopt the application.
Mhm.
And that was just the two applications, the
Mhm.
other application, the temporary use.
We still have to get a temporary use resolution.
Okay.
And that fee schedule for the temporary use is already attached
Mhm.
To it.
Yeah.
to the main fees.
The
for
the
building
proposed
permit
fees are already included on the form, is that what you're saying?
Yep,
Yeah.
On that ordinance or resolution, whatever it is.
yep. Okay.
And you don't wanna lump that in with the others?
Mm-mm. Temporary use and events are very different.
Yeah, and we do have that for, I don't see, that's not large and small events, but that's not for events on city land, so that's not the neither one of
So,
those is the temporary.
yeah, originally, we were gonna do, small events, just the applications, and then a
Okay.
separate one for fee schedule, but we merged those to be one.
So, large and small events is one,
Mm-hmm.
temporary events is not on here.
Yep, we don't have temporary use, because
Okay.
it's not an event, it's just
Can I make
temporary
a
use.
suggestion?
Yes?
What if we put the land use fees on the same fee schedule as everything else? So when we redo the temporary use fee
Yeah,
schedule,
I see what you're saying.
we can
Mhm.
add the rental,
Mhm.
the land use schedules in that same list of that covers everything from zoning all the way down. It's one list that has all fees for planning. So we could put those, just add those to that when we redo that.
So.
To the resolution.
The applications are different, but that one resolution
Sets all those.
could also
Okay.
set those.
I see what you're saying, have one fee schedule for planning, including events and temporary use,
It's
is that right?
Because
it'll
right
be
now
on
what
the
there is,
same schedule that covers everything else, covers our zoning change fees, it covers every fee
All
that
the
planning. It's 2 pages of fees that planning can do. All we do is we add we're gonna change the temporary use fees, and all we're gonna do is we're also gonna add the use of city-owned land.
right, and so if we do that, then I think that's okay, and temporary use would fit on it, because like you said, it's everything related to the planning department.
Temporary use is already on.
What's currently listed right now is just events for city-owned land, which actually by definition is not temporary use permits.
Mhm.
But if you do it on planning, then it would be all.
Okay, so what we have today is good for just our events, handling just this area, and then we'll put together an entire list of fee schedule for a resolution.
And the good news is Brian has a start of that, of what's already in there.
I'll send you guys that
Awesome.
ordinance that has that fee schedule, because
Okay.
it's got the building department, it's got all of planning, so everything the city can charge for is on that schedule.
Love it, yeah, if you send that,
And
we'll
just
work
add
on,
those to it,
mhm,
because
we'll
it's
add
still a
that,
planning fee.
And then maybe temporary does still fit on it.
yeah, I think it would.
Temporary's already on it.
Yeah,
Temporary use is already on that, so all we're doing is redoing an amendment to change the price of those,
Just
and rename them.
it'll be amending an ordinance versus making a resolution
Yeah.
to adopt a
Well,
fee schedule.
No, so resolutions, the ordinances say that they will be set by resolution, and then the resolution's set.
So it is a
Yep.
resolution.
So you can change it with just a resolution.
Perfect, that's what I was wondering. I thought, the way it sounded, that those fees
What,
were in the
to your
ordinance.
point, what we would want to do is we would want to, who's taking minutes?
I am.
You
I'm
will
trying
want
keep
to
up.
make sure that the ordinance that dictates that fee
Mhm.
is sufficient to cover those new things.
Cool.
Or there's a possibility that there may in fact have to be an amendment to the ordinance
Okay,
for that fee. If it gets very picky about what those fees are, then it would need an ordinance
Okay.
update
Okay,
as
so make
well.
sure the ordinance,
so once we can see that
So
ordinance,
validate the ordinance and see if you can just update the fees.
got it.
I'll do a rough change of the ordinance and send it to you guys, so that way you can see where the temporary use fees are, and then the added land use fees.
Okay.
all right, so I
Do
make
we
the
know the
ordinance, I
number of
take
the
updated
ordinance?
fees.
It's on the temporary use.
It's on the temporary use.
Maybe it's not.
No, I see zoning regs.
I'll get the ordinance.
Okay,
That'll be good minutes and homework. Brian will just send the ordinance.
perfect.
It's on my desktop on my computer. It won't take much
I
to get.
apologize for being late, but when you want to allow me to go back to 1 and 2, or 2 and 3 as they are.
Yeah, nope, that's, I think that's a perfect
Yeah.
segue to that.
Okay, so there's 2 things that are on here, and the goal is to get these into the public discussion as soon as possible.
Okay.
The first is, and it's included in the minutes as an exhibit, so even though it's not, it's just because it's gonna be in discussion in here.
Mhm.
But we basically have a task order that is for a Brewery Hill trail feasibility study.
Oh, okay.
So this
Cool.
is we've had several conversations about a trail down Brewery Hill. We started conversations with MDOT back in January and February, actually. Their proposal is that we have lots of, oh, that was you, good.
Yep, sorry.
That there was lots of, some grant money that's available. MDOT says they're willing to help and probably pay for it, but there's some groundwork that needs to be done first.
Okay.
However, given that it is dollars, or the potential of dollars, I'll explain more of that, this is one of those things that I feel, I need blessing of council to go spend this money and initiate a study. Currently, it's set for up to $24,000. However, we have a range of committed donations from Beartooth Trails, from homeowners associations along the area. And depending on how far some of those, followed through, it could end up costing the city a grand total of $0.
Okay.
But it's still the city who's initiating it, and so those donations would be coming in from those other groups to us. But basically, this is, the idea is to have this done by the end of the year so that we can get MDOT's dollars to put us a trail in and know where that's going by the beginning of next year.
And that was, you said up to 24K?
24K is what they had originally started out by saying it was gonna be 19, grand as the max. But then when they also said the grant application, that extra 5 is basically administering the grant if we get it, I believe. So it's 19,000, and then if we get the grant, there's an additional, 5,000 built in for administering the grant to get that taken care of. They had a pretty high level of confidence that this was gonna be approved.
Okay.
There were some things that had come up when it had come up before, because it's not gonna be ADA grade, because it's a hill. However, there is an exemption that basically says if you're going along an adjacent roadway, you don't have to be ADA, you just have to match the adjacent roadway. So again, I think it's very likely we're gonna get this, but we need to spend some dollars to move forward.
Okay.
I'm
Do
into
we
it.
know if we have to, take property owners, or is there enough right-of-way there?
So there's actually a bunch of right-of-ways on both sides, but that will be something that, so the answer is, we won't take anybody's properties. We may purchase easements, may be part of the discussion, but that's part of what this will determine and articulate specifically.
Okay.
But they have already done a high-level look at it. My understanding is that the current most likely proposed path actually starts out on the north side of the road, so it's an extension of the trail as it hits Lazy M. It comes down to Alpine Apartments, and then at Alpine, they're looking at putting in another lighted crosswalk, like up at the dog park, where you hit the flashy lights and then cross the road.
Oh, okay.
And then it would come across there to the south side, and then come down the south side of the road. So there's a couple of different,
Scary crossing
proposals.
spot.
Well, there would be some additional, pardon?
It's midway down, so
Midway
it's
down.
right
Yeah.
above the Priest, just below Alpine Basin.
So it
Just
wouldn't
right,
be the
yeah, right
entrance-
at Alpine Basin.
So the entrance to Alpine Basin is where,
Just on the downhill side of it.
okay.
And then there's some related, and like I said, that's not a certainty, that's just, as they've looked at it, that's one of the ideas that they've proposed.
Okay.
One of the concerns with being on the north side is there's some drainage over there. And so does the cost become unmanageable to keep it on that side? But again, they haven't done the work yet. But part of this is if there's additional easements beyond what are already there, and I think they're already there, it's MDOT, and they've already said they're on board. But if we needed something else, that would be part of, you need to buy an easement. So it wouldn't be public condemnation.
No.
There's not an
I
appetite for
just
that.
put easement discussed.
So,
Yeah, it would probably.
So questions, comments of homework for me, because otherwise what we'll do is we'll introduce this tonight, and then I can have it for action
For the following.
100%.
for the following weeks. But I didn't want to, they got this to us, and it's kind of a timely thing, but I kind of like our cadence where we don't stick things on and expect people to vote without having had a couple weeks
Knowledge.
to talk about it, give the public a chance to reach out and offer feedback. And that is in the packet too, so.
Awesome.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I've always thought that even on that side where there's a lot of drainage, you could build a wooden platform.
It could be really, like, cool to have a
A
little
sidewalk.
promenade down that.
Many syllables.
It's a fun word.
Trail.
I watch Bridgerton.
And anyway, so questions or comments, or are you guys okay bringing that up
100%.
tonight?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
There's been outcry for, as long as I've been here, for some sort of trail there.
I mean,
yeah,
I was-
it's one
I
of those
didn't know.
things I would love to put on the done checklist.
And people use it anyway.
thanks, sir.
Yeah, and that was MDOT, when we reached out to get MDOT on board,
Okay.
that was
Especially
their
with the
thing.
new development of the scooter guys that've been going up and down the hill all the time.
That's a different discussion.
Okay.
We talked about, we should have brought that up in public safety.
Yeah, those guys have been.
So the other one, and I apologize for, no, I did it in order. The other one is I wanted to introduce this idea, and it's listed on here as an RFP for affordable housing project, and they need to qualify that. So the short answer is, there's 5 acres at the top of the hill on the south side of the road at Brewery Hill that's currently part of the airport, so it's currently designated in our zoning as P1. It's a park. but it's part of that area that we're looking at cropping out of the airport. Doesn't need to be in that, it would still need to go to zoning. In fact, we'll introduce it at planning board meeting tomorrow, but this is a conversation to validate what I perceive as the appetite for, yes, let's do what we can to help affordable housing. The question,
Isn't that in the, safety zone?
it is not, no, the safety zones are directly off the end of 1634, the paved
Okay.
runway. So it's
Even though it
actually,
widens out.
so what happens is, it's like an upside down cake
Right.
that goes out.
Right,
So if you look at that location, we would not be allowed to build a building that's more than 470 feet tall,
yeah.
which I don't anticipate as being a problem.
It's already got city store that kind of runs along there.
So there's some concerns and some questions about, the supply, but as I've talked to, the main concern we have is the main concern we already have, which is the water bypass, to get the pressure for throughput for fire. And it's basically the same problem that we already have throughout the Spires and all of Country Club Estates, everything on that west bench.
Right.
And so that's a project that's on there. But one of the other advantages is these Section 42 developers, as they come in, they don't get tax credits for land, they do get tax credit for everything else. So one of the things that could actually be used is they could pay a substantial portion of that, water bypass for the pressure.
They
Good.
could, okay, so we would lease the land to them.
So that's the question. So as we have a specific Section 42 developer
Mhm.
that has been working with the city for years. I remember talking to him on council 6 years ago that has been here. As we've pursued it and said, okay, let's turn this into an active, we've reached out to the city attorney, and I've gotten a series of answers that change and change and change. The short version is, what his answer has come back is, yes, you can do it, and yes, we can lease it, because he found a statute where we can actually give property to somebody for a specific purpose. The preference of everybody involved is actually a lease, but theoretically, if you can give it to them, you can lease it to them. But he made an assertion which he's still validating or looking into, comma, I've also, looked into getting a second opinion from legal counsel to validate the different mechanisms we can do.
Mhm.
But the latest assertion that he had is that what we needed to do was put together an RFP that we presented and said, hey, developers come near and far, we want affordable housing, 30 to 60% AMI, submit your proposals. The current developer who's done that has said, we haven't had to do that in other places,
Mhm.
so that's one of the reasons that we're looking for a second opinion. Is that because this is Montana and the other places are other places? But I think my understanding is this is the same guy who actually put the apartments in that are up there right now.
Originally.
He was involved in that same process. So just because we're getting conflicting answers, I've reached out for a second opinion. Having said that, in a perfect world, what he'd like to do is have a proposal put together or done by January so that it can be submitted by March, because that's when, and that's funding for next year.
Right.
And so just because this is kind of developing, my goal is to get this out into the public conversation as quickly as possible, validate that council, like I said, we've had enough conversations, I feel fairly comfortable with it, but get a valid input from council that, that yes, please pursue, we are interested in doing what we can from the city and putting a little bit of skin in the game, as it were, of leasing the land in order to get that. And then, again, one of the other things that came up as a contributing factor is if we do this quickly enough that they're able to significantly contribute
Oh, to
to the water bypass, it could in essence more than pay for whatever they charge, you know, because it started out, you have to do it a market lease. And then that was an RFP, and then it came back as, well, no, I think maybe there's a way to do it around that. And so like I said, I just hit 2 attorneys on it to see if we can get answers.
Cool. Can
And
you,
saw
which-
my email to Dennison?
I did, just barely, as a matter of fact.
Well, it's my second request, it's been months and months. We, got 24-point-something acres, by a grant to expand this the sewer ponds at some point.
Mhm.
So what I wanted to do, and it runs from 2 Mile Bridge Road, what I wanted to know is if we could lop off 5 acres on 2 Mile Bridge Road and trade city deeded land so that there's still that 24 acres for, another sewer pond when we're ready for it. But we would have 5 acres that we could use for workforce housing.
Out by the pond.
No, well, there's really quite a bit of space in
Right,
between.
okay, but right off of 2 Mile is what you're saying?
It's right off of 2
Yeah,
Mile,
yeah.
when you go past Woodlands on Rock
Okay.
Creek, then there's, Lagoon Road or
Yeah,
Lagoon,
I
whatever,
got you, yeah.
and that's the 24-point-something acres. So I
Okay.
just wanted to know, as long as the grant covered, doesn't have to be that 24 acres,
where is this grant coming from and
we
to?
already have it.
Here at the city.
It's what we
When you
got
keep
for the
saying
sewer
old,
pond.
When we
yeah,
got from the
okay.
We
sewer.
got the land through a grant.
Got you, okay,
For
thank
sewer
you
pond
for that
enlargement.
clarification.
So my question was that can we trade 5 acres of that land for 5 acres of city deeded land, which we have, so that
Just
we free it up?
any city deeded land around here, it
Well,
wouldn't have to be
I would
close
say
to that?
adjacent. It would
Yeah.
be adjacent to it, but there's plenty of it.
Now, I'm curious, have you had any conversations with the public work, that, when I looked at it, it was like, we talked to the public works director or our public works department about, because that was kind of the first I had seen of any of that,
Mhm.
was that email.
Well, I had sent one probably in February to find out whether or not this is feasible. Is it feasible that land that we got through a grant could be traded?
I mean, I think it would be depending on how it's deeded.
Mhm.
Well, we've got deeded city land, yeah.
Well,
And-
that's-
And maybe, yeah, there may be a restriction on it.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to know,
Okay,
and I still want to know.
okay.
Because that's nice flat land, it connects 2 Mile Bridge Road, so when they, sooner or later do 212, we have an easy route into town.
Okay, so this is.
Brian,
still
I
waiting
need
for
your help
consent.
for a second. I'm doing this via cadastral rather than maps, just because I figured it gives, but I know you know where in this picture.
Red Lodges?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at it, and why am I not finding it? It's not on the end of the road. But Brian has it, knows right what section is, or how do you do it?
Are you talking about the 24 acres I'm talking about?
No, I'm just getting into Red Lodge right now.
Here, wait. This new cadastral is not nearly as friendly as the old.
I like it.
You like it?
I do.
There's pros and cons for it. So I've got,
I don't even know where you are. Where are you?
well, here's 310 right here, so theoretically,
Go that way.
Clarksburg Valley.
I was kind of like, it looks like where am I?
You're in Wyoming.
am I too far south?
You're
Yeah.
in Wyoming.
Real good.
Oh, it's flipped around?
No?
No.
No, you need to go up more.
So let's refresh the page.
There we go. You're zoomed in.
Click city, do a search for city of
No,
Red
go
Lodge.
that way.
Oh, keep going.
You do a search for city of Red Lodge.
Well, that's what I'm saying, there we go, we're getting closer.
Belfry.
Keep going.
So when I saw Belfry earlier, I will make a confession that,
No, go directly.
oh, there's
Yep.
Grove Creek Road, sorry.
Go that
I
way.
saw Belfry and in my mind I heard,
There we
where's
go.
it the airport
There's that road.
actually resides in,
Lodge, you wanna get
yeah.
right there.
I'm trying to get it to stop spinning, there we go. And
You're
then
making me
flip
sad.
over to here, and then I
Okay,
wanna go to
that's
the
Red
satellite
Lodge.
photo.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Go north.
So this is the 5 acres that I was talking about, which is the discussion we're on.
Gotcha, okay.
So-
Who owns the?
So this
1 acre.
little miniature piece
Yeah,
is current, boy, I didn't mean to do
Greg
that,
O'Neill.
is
right?
currently owned by O'Neill,
Greg
and
O'Neill.
he had reached out at one point in time and wanted to trade it for a stretch going down the face of this hill, which
Right.
is not like for like or comparable value.
Mhm.
He had also expressed an interest in this triangle, which we currently use for gravel
Mhm.
and staging.
Mhm.
And at that point, we said, sure, let's have that conversation. His comment was, that's great, that's wonderful, I'm on board, you can take that to the bank. And then a month later, he came back and said, no, I don't want to talk about this, I only want to talk about this. And so the response, at that time is, that the city would have a more vested interest in trading this triangle for this square, because then this is all is unencumbered.
Mhm.
Let us know if you change your mind, and so that's where it is. But right now, as they've built plans, they've actually built plans for around that, and assuming that's not there. The other thing this does, by the way, is you can get a feel for the easements on either side of the road for Brewery Trail. So,
Energy
and,
system.
so that's, man, I clicked it once and it moved twice. So that's the piece of land we're talking about. And depending on the size and available, and if that square's there, we're talking between 40 and 65 units. That would be 30 and 60% MI. They will never, ever be short-term rentals. They will always be
Rental.
rentals for people that are in that, you know, a lot of it is gonna be your Broadway, service workers and things that are there. And my thinking is that, if we create some of those, and there's some other locations within town that we're looking at, by the way, as
Mhm.
well, that are private pieces of land. But if we can create those, then there's a lot of houses that, you know, there's 4 or 5 people sharing rent and getting underneath it, that are then available for the school teachers and the doctor, or, you know, the nurses
Right.
and the,
And it's my
and the other things.
understanding that they do qualify the first year, and then they re-qualify the second year. And after that, they don't have to qualify again.
that might be section 7 you're talking about, which has a little bit different rules too. So they each have their own different rules, and the
Yeah.
beautiful part is, we don't have to deal with those.
Yeah, well, the
Yep.
advantage of that is that you could actually build, you know, that the person could build as time goes on to the point where they're ready to buy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they're not penalized for making more money.
So my question is twofold. One, do we have an interest in pursuing this as a city?
But, yeah,
Mhm.
Is that, and that has been my assessment. And then what specific questions, other than what are the appropriate mechanisms that we have to do? So do we need to, there's a little bit of when I run it past the smell test, when you say we have to put an RFP out and allow different developers to put in,
Mhm.
I could see why that may be the case. I don't know that that's the case, but like I said, we've got different people, but that at least passes my smell test a little bit.
and
I would feel better about that.
I have no problem with putting it out there.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, put it out for bid, and it's a time date deal.
Yeah, I agree, make it time.
And, well,
Yeah.
and it isn't necessarily a bid based on price, it's a bid based on the presentation about what are you gonna provide for the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and even, by the way, when things do come to bid, there's a common misnomer that we have to go with the lowest bid on everything.
And I know we don't.
And that is not the case. We can say this doesn't meet standard, or, you know, company X has a bad reputation, or, you know, it needs to be an open and public process, but the general thought process would be, this would be like $1 a year lease sort of a thing, similar to what the high school is.
So what do they
um,
offer the city?
Yeah, it's show us what you're gonna put in, and again,
And manage.
we can help, and they'll manage it, and then, but again, and help pay for if we need to expand sewer, if we need stormwater, if we need that water bypass stuff.
The water bypass is right, yeah. 'Cause-
So what questions do you, and again, we'll ask this at council meeting as well, but like, what questions do you guys have that you want me to look into or dig into, or what parts of that have we not thought about?
Location.
We got the location, that
The
factor.
location is excellent, because
Yeah.
whoever lives there can ride a bike or walk to.
Well, right, and it's right with the brewery
Yeah.
hill
Hill.
feasibility.
Which we can get them
The
to help pay for if we need
I don't
to.
know, I
So
don't
the
know.
location is really good.
Okay.
What are, the felony apartments, is it the same requirement, 30 to 60%?
No, so the apartments are what's known as Title VII housing, which
Yeah.
is a different subsidized, and that's the one where they qualify, but I think only for the first or maybe second year. Section 42, I think, has a little bit different rules, but again, I'm not an administrator over either one of those programs.
And I'm not familiar with either one. I just know that the one that I talked with Tom was that they'd qualify the first 2 years and then not after that. And that gave them a chance to build up, you know, they're still paying cheap rent, but they're making more money as time goes on, which allows them to work into regular purchasing.
So with the development, I'm assuming the developer would be the one managing or having to hire that out, et cetera. And would this be, so it's a leased land,
Mhm.
so we wouldn't necessarily have to have deed restricted, it would just be lease restriction.
Least restricted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just,
And
I
if
would
you-
just caution to be very, firm with those leases, to make sure that down the line, we're not ending up with a Silver Strike situation.
That, by the way, is being revisited as well.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Silver Strike is a for-profit, this is not a for-profit. This
That's
is-
not necessarily true, Sandy, like, this could be a for-profit, they might still be
Even
making
the
money.
apartment,
Right, for who knows
at
what
20
cut they're
years,
Mhm.
that thing goes into the public, you know, it's no longer what it is. There's a certain time limit on that is my understanding. And so, it's not forever.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's just making sure we're not locked into a forever.
And I think those are all good questions. Like I said, a lot of the details, I think at this juncture, it's just before we spend effort working on this, make sure it's in line
Yeah, with the
with
goal.
what I've understood are our goals and our
Goals for
plans
our
and what we'd
workforce
like to
housing.
do.
Yep.
And our goals are to
Yep.
provide housing for our workers that they can afford.
Yep.
You know, when rents now are closer to $2,000, if you're making $15 at Pizza Co., you know, you can't afford that kind of rent.
Yeah.
And there isn't anything to rent, so.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that?
Well, I assume that they'll do the roads and the infrastructure, all of that will be part of the
Their presentation.
developer.
Yeah, that, I assume so, yes.
I'm
And
glad to see what they
wondering
come
if
up.
we should
Yeah.
have, Fisher talk to the city council as a, by the way, this is what I've done in the past, but we're still gonna put it out to bid.
Well, and so his schedule did not align to this time. He has said he's willing to come and talk to it before.
Mhm.
There was I want to make sure that I qualify it accurately, there was a little bit of pushback from the RFP proposal. And I think part of it was, we don't want to have to do all the groundwork and then have somebody else come in and do
Outbid.
it. And again, my question is, from a city standpoint, there's a couple of, what's best for the city, but then we also don't want to be in a position of picking winners and losers. There is, if we go to kind of the core directives of what, if you talk to any department head, you should get an answer. A, we're a service organization. B, we get stuff done, comma, the right stuff. Is this the right stuff? But then number 3 is, everything has to be done consistently, above board, openly, in the same way, so that somebody comes in tomorrow that we've not even thought of in some other situation, that it can be equally applied across the board. And so that's kind of the part that we're looking into
Okay.
questions as well. What is the right way to do that we can do consistently over and over again?
That's what I wrote. What?
Right.
And I can understand Tom Fisher's pushback on the RFP because he's done,
He's done all the.
he
planning
lives
work.
here, he's been talking to everybody for years and years and years and years.
And I've probably upset him a slight bit. I want to say upset, probably frustrated is a better word, when I've relayed, this is what I'm hearing from council. I'm getting a second opinion, but this is what I'm hearing right now.
Okay.
But I think this is enough information that gives me the ability to bring it to council and start the conversation, get the public dialogue going on it. So that's what this was.
Yeah.
Brad, do you have anything you want to add to that at all?
That's an accurate depiction. I had lunch with him yesterday, and
Okay.
his concern was the length of going through to do his formal RFP.
Yep.
And his company's great, but they bat about 50% on RFPs,
Mm.
so he didn't know if the juice would be worth the squeeze.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And again, he's been working on this for a while,
He's
correct?
already
Like,
been,
they put
on
together a study, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
I 6 years ago, when I was on council weeks, I was having
Yeah, they've done.
conversations with, I was aware of what their objectives.
So I feel like he's already kind of,
He's already,
he
like,
should already have it.
he's the one who went out of the way to get all this done.
And in fairness, if we put together an RFP, and depending what those requirements are, how spun up and ready are you to hit the ground running in Red Lodge? I think he's going fairly well on there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I mean, as I said, he was involved in the development of those units. So I don't know that an RFP process is necessarily dismissive. But going back to prime directives 1, 2, and 3,
Right, we need to.
we have to do this the right way, that,
There's no, just,
yeah, nobody
That
can come back and
everybody
push back
has a
on it.
shot at it.
yeah. equal
I mean,
fair.
and I think you're right, I think that it's going to favor him because he's done so many of these. It's not his first time of doing this exact same thing.
But my also fear, and I don't, I'll be honest, I feel like it's a little bit of a moonshot and they've already got some rough drafts and stuff they put together. I hate to say it, but I think it's doable, but I think it's a moonshot to have him be able to apply for next year and be able to do this.
Mhm.
But my follow-up, and Brad, you might be able to answer this better, is this is a yearly thing, not an every other year. So in a worst-case scenario, if
We missed,
if maybe because of dotting our i's and crossing our t's and doing the process, this adds one more year to the cycle, that's not the end of the world. That's still, we still gotta meet the three prime directives. But we don't want three getting in the way of two.
no.
Yeah.
Noted.
No.
Well, if you get good guidance when it comes to the RFP, you can tailor the RFP to what you want, which is still gonna allow everybody to do it, but it's gonna remove a bunch of people that might be looking at different other types of.
Yeah, because like I said, this will be, if we do it from, and particularly if the city puts it out for a minimal, $1 a lease, $1 a year, what the city wants is perpetual entry-level workforce housing.
Right.
Perpetual, exactly.
That'll always be there. I saw a hand in the audience and it's your reading, so I'll.
That cycle in February, March of next year, rough order of magnitude, the state has 30 to 32 million annually in credits, and it's usually awarded to $5 million projects.
Mhm.
So they'll receive 15 approximately, people like Tom.
Mhm.
So Tom's, I guess, calculus, as I'm trying to understand his position is, if it's an RFP that injects risk into the process, and he already has the 50/50 risk applying for the LIHTC credit with all of the staffing that goes into that. So he's got to decide.
50 times 50 times, yeah,
And then-
And,
your chances start to become like the lotto.
and again, I
Yeah.
think your point of, it's important to do the due diligence on that end, but it's also not, we don't want it getting in the way of getting it done.
And there's several advantages that I can tell you that if we had this done, so he was able to get it and get awarded this next year,
Uh-huh.
it would help with our water bypass project, because we're moving forward with that because it's necessary and it's been a critical issue for a half a dozen years now. It's just like, we're moving forward with stormwater, but we get to have access to money for roads that nobody else is ready for, because nobody else pulled the trigger on the stormwater this year.
Yeah.
And so, the Brewery Trail, if we get that to where that's getting built in the next year or so, if he's there, he can do the tax credits to help participate in that stuff. So there's some advantages to the city of having it done sooner, but, and again, 2 is important, but number 3 is also equally important, as far as it's gotta be a process that is
Well-
very easily defendable.
Mhm. I agree.
So, when you're doing a timeline, are you telling me that we couldn't get this ready by next January for him to?
I don't know the answer to that question
Yeah.
yet, because I think we
Basically,
need, we need feedback from attorney. If we were going to anoint, it's you. Now, there's some other things we have to do in this process. Like I said, right now, that's currently a park.
Right.
We have to redo that boundary, designate it as probably commercial, because the piece that's in there is commercial, so I think that's probably what it would be around there, but that makes it
It's
developable.
community entrance, isn't it?
No, I don't think it's a CE.
Yeah.
It's the old.
Yep, is it C1?
It's gonna be C3 North,
No,
Yeah.
what is the one piece that's out there, is just is it C3 North?
should be,
Yeah.
Or is it just, but yeah, it's there already, so that to me is the most
So the zoning is
logical.
good, so all you would have.
Well, no, the zoning has to be changed, but I don't anticipate that being
Because it's currently
a
park.
limitation.
We have to change, it's current, yeah.
It's park zoning,
And
not
that will
residential.
take 2 meetings to the city council, so that's September.
And then we have to do, so then there's another process where they need like a survey, and there's some things that, and again, maybe this is one of those things that an RFP says, that their initial ask was, we want you to provide us a survey and say, yes, you have dibs on, because when they go apply for it, they basically have to say, we have dibs on the land.
Mhm.
You don't get to apply for we might get land someplace to
They
be
have
able to build
already
it.
have to have been awarded the RFP.
They have to be able to demonstrate that the land is there, that they have land to build on.
Right.
So whatever process, and again, it's a ways off, but we're at the end of August.
That's
And,
what I'm saying,
and,
but if
and
you do a
you've
timeline-
learned by now, if you haven't, January's 2 blinks.
Yeah.
I know, but if you do a timeline, it would seem to me that we could easily get that done, at least on a city level. The question is, what needs to be done, and how long does it take, and then let's look at it and see if we can get it done.
I agree completely. I don't disagree at all.
Basically, he's just opening the door right now so that we can't.
What I'm doing is getting this out into the public conversation to help increase our likelihood of being able to be done by January. And the reality is, the deadline is March. Their goal to get it done by January is so they can have multiple copies, and they want to increase their likelihood of getting award. And that, to me, is another one of those factors that comes into play. How many times have you done this? We don't want somebody who's doing this their first time, because we want them to win the state bid when they go in there.
We
Mhm.
want
Someone
them
who's-
to,
Who
yeah,
knows whether, yeah,
Shovel ready.
got it.
yeah.
I think the lengthiest part of this process is gonna be putting together a lease. Just because that's a lot of attorney.
Mhm.
We have a lot of leases already.
Just
We
saying.
have to do a change.
Okay. Other thoughts or questions I should have thought of, or that council would like you to think? And like I said, we need to discuss this at council tonight, but then at that time, I'll ask, what does council want to direct me to do, or kind of what's council's feel?
How long does the RFP normally, a month?
I don't think they're even out, they can
And that's
be,
even if we go with an RFP.
they go to, yeah, so right now,
Right, and we don't even, yeah, that's what you're saying.
right now, I've got 2 attorneys chasing down what's the best way to make this happen
Quickest.
in a reasonable and appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, everybody wants to take their time. It's like, no, we don't want to lose a year.
And,
It's okay to take your
and
time.
I would rather not lose a year, but having said that,
I'd rather do it.
if we don't
right.
get it for this year, I'm not gonna throw my hands in the air and
No, I
say it
know.
was a fail. It
No.
was, but we
But
may
the
have a
need-
better luck at hitting next year by shooting for this year.
Yeah, but the need is immediate, so that, and it's gonna take forever to build it too. So even if we got it in this year, it wouldn't be until 2026. So if we stall, then it's 2027.
I don't think we're saying we're stalling, I think.
No.
So I'm
I think we're trying to
saying,
get
if
it.
we're held back.
All right, you guys have
Yeah.
5 minutes
Okay.
left to hit the other stuff on your agenda.
Speaking of
Thank
stalling.
you, it didn't have to take that much of your time.
No, that was a good.
Okay, I
Full page.
kind of want to go back, looking at this, resolution 3430 amended, is
Okay.
to adopt the fee schedule.
Yep.
Yep.
And I'm not sure, I think this needs its own, because we're talking about putting temporary use in with the events.
No, we're talking about putting temporary use in with this.
With the,
Events will be their
Thank you, Red.
own.
Okay, and events will have the fee schedule for
And this is
events.
it right here, boom, it's already done.
oh, she did print it. Fabulous.
Okay,
Okay, so we have resolution 3660 and a resolution 3430 amended.
okay.
I think I wrote those down. On
Yep.
the other
And did you
page.
guys chance to print enough copies of those so we can
I
get them to the rest of
did.
council
I
tonight?
sure did,
Fantastic.
and you even, not just
And extras.
council. I'm ahead.
Yeah, time to talk about a lease, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right, agricultural lease, that's the other thing that you had on here.
Okay, let's
Oh,
do that real
I
quick.
know why he's here.
This is
Did-
all riveting.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
So,
How can you laugh with
Wow.
your tongue in your cheek like that?
So I don't know that we have, actually, I do know, because the lease that we got, I think is woefully inadequate. So the challenge that we had, there's actually 3 leases to make people aware of, or 3 RFPs that are out. One of them we've talked about. The second one is the property that is currently leased by Jim and Eric for bucking stock.
Mm-hmm.
The concern that I have with the RFP that was put out is that it does not address the limitations and the needs of the property. It needs to, in my opinion, it needs to very specifically list out, you can't be grazing cows or anything that makes it to your dinner table. And the challenge that we had, and what was assigned to the attorney, back when we talked about it the first time, was come up with the definition and those limitations, but do it without reaching out to the current property owners, because then it looks like you're tainting the process,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So there, and what we got was just a generic lease that I don't think is anywhere near appropriate and restrictive enough. Unless you guys have seen something other than what I have seen.
but it does need to be restrictive because we put the,
It needs to be, it's a sewer drainage field.
I was trying to,
Yeah,
so I have a
and-
nice way of saying that.
More specific for, what did we put, last time we were talking about for consumption and grazing.
Basically,
Not for
Yeah, well,
consumption.
well, I wanted him to, yeah, it's basically nothing that ends up on the table in any way, shape, or form. And so if we put out an RFP when it's there, and we will certainly reach out and let you guys know that it's there, but that RFP has to be, it can't just say we have a 5-acre piece of land or whatever it is for lease. And it needs to, and when I saw it, it is not, so I don't know that it's ready, it's certainly not ready for tonight's discussion yet,
No.
because it doesn't have those limitations
You
in
said
it.
there were three, so.
And then the third one,
Yeah.
is actually, I requested, to put together an RFP for the lease down in front of AY, which has currently had U-Haul trucks on it.
Yeah,
And then there's a tree trimming truck for sale, and yesterday there was a camper on
there
it.
was a Mustang for sale for a while,
There was, anyway,
Yeah,
so
there's
the
no
short
garage
version
sale.
is,
saw that.
I had gone down and talked to the owner there at the time, and I said, hey, the city land out here, do you want me to draw you up a lease, so that you can use it? Or do we clean it up? I said, oh, I'll go talk to the guy who it is and we'll get it off there. Anyway, I had a conversation with him yesterday and let him know we were drawing up an RFP.
Mm.
And my suspicion is that before the week is done, the U-Hauls will all be parked on his property along the street and the problem will have taken care of itself.
Oh, okay.
So the goal of said, the goal of said third lease was actually to get people to stop using city land for non-city purposes without, and if they wanna use it, we'll do an RFP and lease it out there.
I never saw a
um,
lease for that.
Yeah, it's not, again, it was a,
Just a piece of,
well, the lease that we got was too generic to serve what the purpose is, but the purpose of the lease, the purpose of drawing up the lease or drawing up the RFP, I think has been met, so. It may not be a lease that comes up at all. But if somebody uses that land, we'll offer to put them to put in a lease for that land and take their chances with whoever else wants to lease that land.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe we will lease it and come up with a good use for it and
How big
have
is
the
that
city
lot?
make some money.
it's not,
Half an
It's,
acre?
no, it's a couple of acres.
is it?
Good size.
I don't know, I just don't know,
Let's go back
I don't know
to
the,
gas
I don't know how
You're looking
depth
at-
wise.
Real quick, the
Yeah.
agriculture of
Yeah,
so the way DEQ reads that is you can't grow crops for human consumption. You can grow hay, grass, and graze.
For
For
human,
livestock, you just
Yeah.
can't grow, you can't grow tomatoes and then sell them for human.
Can you graze hay and then feed
Yeah.
it to your cows that you're
Yeah.
gonna eat milk?
Yeah.
So, no offense, that to me is a different understanding than what I got when we'd heard it before, when Jim was coming in and telling us what was there. But which is part of why we needed the attorney to go out and research that and build us an appropriate DEQ, and you maybe have provided some of the wording. So maybe if you'll follow up with him, and go from there.
The only, so I did receive an opinion from the attorney that the current lease is auto-renewing. So I guess we're concerned about, ours needs to be canceled before you move forward with the next one.
So
We have not received notice that you're canceling the one we got.
So last year, we actually said we were renewing it for 1 year, is my recollection. Because it-
Right, no, it's it's auto-renewing.
Is this a recent conversation?
It was right, it was at that time.
Because at that time, what we got is that it was not, but,
Well, I remember you talked about in that last meeting that that's what you would do for 1 year, but you didn't do it. There's been no correspondence with the leaseholders,
okay.
none.
So if I restate what I'm hearing, directly or indirectly, is we have not yet received notice of a lease, lease cancellation, it's appropriate that lease be canceled before it goes out for RFP.
There's been zero correspondence.
Okay.
okay, no.
I would like to
correspondence
include
between
that
both
with notice of RFP, and you said it was DEQ, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I just know that from when I had the food business. DEQ is actually pushing to do groundify.
I'm sorry, this is gonna require a little more information. The poo business?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
I'm not even gonna ask
We used
questions.
to own Carbon County Sewer.
Yeah,
The poo business.
and so, Helen is a good example that the majority of septic company is groundify over there in fields for grading.
Yeah, that explains.
Fertilizer.
Like 50,000 gallons an acre. Well, yeah.
Lot.
That sounds
That sounds like a lot.
All right,
It's also very strict, like, there's things that you have to do with that too, like you have to filter it and make sure that,
You
you know.
read it.
Yep.
can I get
Scratch
your
it
name? I'm sorry, I don't,
Yeah, so I'm Eric Bosworth,
well, I knew Eric, but
B-O-T-T-O-R-S-S. I'm the leaseholder with Jim.
yes, I remember that from the last, I was at the last meeting
Yeah.
that we talked about the lease. And then I was like, I know his name, but I don't know his last name, and I'm not gonna spell that one.
And I only go as far as Eric with the C and Eric with the K, because then I can go onto the
Eric
city
with a B.
website.
This is Eric
Yeah.
with a B.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, no, our first names.
The first name,
Yeah.
one ends with a C and one ends with
Also
a K.
Eric Carlson with a K.
And you're like Eric with a C.
Yeah,
You're Eric with,
but I'm Eric B,
but he's Eric.
and he's Eric C.
Which call you Bob?
So what I'm
Yeah.
hearing right now is we still need to draft up a new lease, need to put it out to RFP, 'cause it's not
We
specific
need to
enough.
send cancellation of the
And
existing
we,
lease,
We have
and
to
cancellation of existing lease, okay.
Okay, current lease renewal, notice to cancel.
which Eric is going, crap, well, that wasn't what my intent was to get the cancellation
No,
letter,
no,
but it's
that's all-
inappropriate that we
no.
need to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
On.
we
Yeah.
need to do things in the right order.
I hear
Okay.
you on that.
My notes are not in the right order, but I got you.
How do I make this thing on the bigger, bigger so that I can see? Oh, there we go. Bingo there. So this piece of property that we're talking about out in front of AY
Yes.
is actually, it's a fairly, we haven't drawn maps around it.
right there. See, I was thinking in that little rectangle was all that you're talking about.
It is a little
So is that
rectangle.
all
This
city
rectangle
land?
is part of, this is all city land. This is the concrete.
Yes.
And
So-
they own that.
Yep, Chesser owns that, the rest of it's just the streets around it.
Okay. So the one with the little rectangle off,
Yeah, the southern end of it.
yeah, the bottom of the nine.
When I'm trying to look, if it tells me what the size of that piece is
So
for,
that's the piece that we're,
Uh-huh.
That right there.
and who
Yeah.
currently has the lease on that?
nobody has a lease on it. Somebody's using it for free,
Because it was, quote,
and that's
all
not
roads,
scalable.
but it was basically all roads, except for that one piece that isn't being.
I know, I
And the good
remember.
news is it looks better than this right now, but it's still problematic. So
Yeah,
anyway, that was the story behind that one.
Got it.
It's time to wrap this.
Woo,
guys.
yeah.
Let's wrap.
So we'll get back to camping and other ordinances.
Commercially.
I guess we'll have to meet again in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Mm.
all right.
Homecoming week. Oh.
We will adjourn this meeting.